Welcome to episode 69 of the Deadzone Podcast. My name is Jack.
And I'm Rob. Yep, we've got a cracker of an episode this time, I think, Jack.
Fantastic. Yeah, it's going to be a big one. We got a lot to cover.
We got some special guests here, some people from another podcast, and we're actually going to do a crossover episode with Mark and Rob from Couter Charge. I do hope that they get your name right, Jack.
Well, I'm OTG. I'm Mantic Radio or nothing. You can take Mantic Radio out of my cold, dead hands.
It's classic, but it's Couter Charge now, Jack. You have to put up with it.
Oh, I fear change.
Well, let's get on with this episode.
Welcome to the Couter Charge and the Deadzone the Podcast crossover special. I am your announcer, William Randolph Wintergreen.
I'm Rob Harper.
I'm Mark Zielinski.
I'm Jack Fike.
And I'm Rob Fanuff. Well, tonight we have a special episode for you. Yes, your dreams have come true. We have joined forces with Bob and Jake to bring you a combined Deadzone Couter Charge mashover podcast. Or wait, is it Deadzone? Is it Couter Charge? I don't know. Let's forget it. Let's just get started. Rob, Jack, and Mark, what should we get started with?
Well, why don't we introduce our guests to the Couter Charge audience, and then we'll go ahead and introduce ourselves to the Deadzone the Podcast audience. So why don't we go ahead and start with our guests, Rob and Jack. So, Mr. Harper, how'd you like to start us off? Introduce yourself.
Yep, my name's Rob Harper, and my cohort is Mr.
See, I'm not your dancing monkey.
No, this is what happens.
And I'm Jack, and we're from the Deadzone Podcast, and we like to play it a little faster and looser than Couter Charge, so you have to put up with some tomfoolery and hijinks.
Yeah, yeah, that's Jack cracking a beer, I believe, and yeah, we're ready to introduce ourselves here. We do play the game Deadzone. As far as we know, we're the only podcast who recover Deadzone, and we're proud of that. Although there is some other podcast who's getting in on our stuff, but we won't talk about them.
No, we will avoid that topic for now. Yeah, so that's us in a nutshell. So Rob, Mark, why don't you introduce yourselves to our audience?
Well, I'm Mark Zielinski, so I am the co-host here on the Couter Charge podcast. I love playing Kings of War. I have played my share of Deadzone in my time, so I also dabble around in other video things that you'll see around there. Also, you find me on the Dice Tower Network, usually on Throw Punch Lunch, Best of the Month. I was contributing to the podcast, but Tom recently fired all the contributors here as they're starting episode 501. So, so we're going to be moving that board game content over to the Board Game Pyrocast, so you can check Steve Avery and myself out over there if I could ever wake Mr. Avery up. He is almost like trying to get Mr. Wintergreen to record with you guys, so he's pretty slow when it comes to the old podcast there, but not too bad. But I love playing Kings of War, so I always have a good time with it, and that's why we're recording here on Couter Charge, and this will be episode 150 something. So as you can tell, we definitely pump out the content. And my co-host is Mr. Rob Fanuff. Rob, why don't you introduce yourself to the Deadzone the Podcast audience?
Hello, my name is Rob. I am a longtime fantasy war gamer. Probably, I guess, first edition, we got into Kings of War, and then when they blew up Warhammer, that was our calling card to say, let's just do Kings of War full time. In terms of the podcast, Couter Charge, unlike Deadzone, we are one of many Kings of War podcasts, though we were the first. And as Jack alluded to in the opening, we used to be called Mantic Radio way back in the day, about 4 years ago. Our good friend Andy and Mark came to me and said, let's have a show about Mantic games. We ran that for about 31 episodes. Right around the time the second edition Kings of War came out, we transitioned over to Couter Charge, and as Mark alluded to, I think our 150th episode dropped on March 19th. So in about 20 months, we've done 150 episodes. We certainly we like to talk, I guess is the best way to describe that. We like to talk quite a bit.
We have a passion for the game, if you can't tell.
You guys are insane, actually. That's 150 episodes. That's nuts.
Well, they're not all 2 hours, to be fair, but yeah.
That's true, but Rob's like a robot, man. He can just really crank out the episodes. He cranks out terrain, he cranks out tournaments, he cranks out everything. I only live in his shadow, guys. So he is quite the force to be reckoned with in the podcast world. Let me tell you, I'm very proud to have him as my co-host. So
And Mike's a pretty good sidekick, too.
That's how you do introductions.
Yeah, professionals.
Exactly.
Professionals. Well, I don't know about that, but all right.
Well, let's transition. Let's talk hobby. I know we all have some hobby that we've probably been working on. Jack, why don't you start us off?
To begin with, after Adepticon, I came home with more plastic bits than I ever intended to ever haul across the border. And to be honest, I heard a rumor that I would be invited to paint a Kings of War army at some point via the interwebs. So I have put together a bunch of models from the Rune Wars box that they seem to be handing out like candy at Adepticon. Like it was like being on Oprah, giving away cars. There was a Rune Wars here, Rune Wars there. So I've glued that together, primed it, and one day, if I do get that invitation to paint an army, then that's what I plan to do: make a undead army for Kings of War.
Oh, fantastic. Well, that would be the Couter Charge Kings of War Army in a Weekend Spectacular number 5, and that is going to be in July 2017. It's going to happen, guys, 2 weeks after the Kings of War Summer Campaign book drops. So I spoke with Rob Berman not that long ago. They don't even have a final draft of the PDF yet, so they're still working away on it, and it's going to be great stuff. So, yeah, we really look forward to you coming painting with us, Jack. That would be fantastic. We have a great time painting. This time around, we were painting with folks from Cambodia. I mean, all over the place. It was absolutely, truly fantastic weekend this last time around. So one of the things was, I mean, not a lot of Mantic armies, but that's okay. We had a great time doing it, and that's one of the great things about Kings of War. You can use so many different model ranges to represent the figures that you want to use. So Exactly. There you go. Well, Mr. Fanuff, you're always busy. I don't know how you get time to do everything that you do. It's like I tell Rob all the time, guys. His wife is going to be in the Gamer Wife Hall of Fame. She is the goddess of the pantheon of gamer wives. So, because she lets Rob do all this stuff. So, Rob, what do you got on the hobby table?
Yeah, she is very tolerant, I will say. Though we just got a clubhouse, and that has made her mood extraordinarily better, because now I'm moving all of my crap over to the clubhouse, so that seems to work. But on our end here in Memphis, I am plugging away on the Club Orc Army. We got most of the models assembled. Good friend of the show, Todd Perkins. I ordered through his store a few more units and bases, and so those are coming in Monday. I've decided that I'm going to build a Trident Realms table. I don't have a Trident Realms army, but I was at Crucible last weekend. I got a demo in a Blood and Plunder. I have no intention of playing Blood and Plunder, but the ships are sweet. So I'm going to cut them up and make terrain out of them.
Yeah, we saw actually Community Pat. We were on a live hangout with him, and he was painting one of those ships, and he loved it. And we saw it at Adepticon. They looked pretty.
Yeah, they're awesome. And fortunately, the guys are from the Miami area, so they were at Crucible, and they said these were miscast, so these were like half price, but to my eye, I don't see why they would call these a miscast. There's nothing wrong with these boats. I mean, they don't have the cannons or the masts, but the rest, I mean, this ship is like, I got the big giant one, and it was like $45, but it's like 18 inches long. I mean, it's ridiculously large. So it'll make some awesome looking terrain. And then we've got the big Blue City Brawl coming up in June, so we're working on the scenarios. We're trying to give it a Memphis spin, so, that's going to be a lot of fun. Mark, I know you don't play Kings of War, but are you hobbying at all, or?
Absolutely. Well, I've been working away. As Rob and Jack will tell you, when we were at Adepticon for Mantic Open Night, the swag bags fell a little short of expectations there in the beginning because stuff didn't show up. And, so it was a little disappointing. And then Community Pat said, hey, everybody who got a swag bag, you get a $25 gift certificate to the Mantic store. You can spend it at the convention and pick up your stuff. So, Mr. Harper, did you spend yours already, or did you waiting for the Mantic store?
No, I did spend it. I bought the Kings of War Clash of Kings book, and I bought a Deadzone Merc, the Sphere one, because we already had one, but we always need more of those fish guys. So yeah, I did spend it.
Cool. Jack, what did you pick up? Did you pick anything up yet?
Yes, I did. I got I got a box of River Guard
Oh, very nice.
because I like the frog / lizard look of them, and I wanted something to paint just out of the joy of painting, and that was right up my alley. So that was fortunate.
Fantastic. Well, for myself, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going with the Ninja Frogs. What's the one army, Mr. Fanuff, I said I would never build or was way down on my list?
Trident Realms, maybe?
Trident Realms. Well, you know what? With my Couter Charge 10% off coupon code, and with my daughter went, so I got $50 off. I am going to be picking up a starter box set from the Mantic website, and I'm going to be picking that up, like I said. And I've already got my Mega Army, so I'm going to be set. I'm going to have all sorts of models for Trident Realms, and you know what? What the heck? I'm going to put one of the armies together. And then one day, I'm going to wait for the Worm Riders to come out in resin. So right now they're still heavy metal. I was looking at Mike Carter's blog, and I'm like, you know what? Those things are going to weigh 1,000 pounds. I'm going to wait for resin. So I'm going to hold off on those because they're $50 right now. So I could have picked them up, but then it would have had to pay for shipping. So it's like, okay, I'll go ahead and just wait for resin. So that should work out pretty well. So, but besides planning my next army, I did manage to get a little more paint on my Army in the Weekend army, the Forces of Nature. I'm not going to ignore them. I'm going to paint everything that I built. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm trying to decide on a color for my salamanders. I think I'm going to base them in the Army Painter Dragon Red as my base color, and then kind of work from there. So I am going to violate all the rules of painting and start them without painting a test model. So I know it's stupid, but I'm going to do it anyways because it's going to be a quick paint army. It's my first one that's going to be on multi-bases, and I got to get Wayne to send me the rest of my bases. You guys just reminded me here on this podcast, I got to send Wayne another email and get the rest of my MDF bases shipped over to me. So, but that'll be great. So Wayne, you ain't wrong. Thank you very much up there at the TC War Room, supplying me with some good cheap MDF bases. So really appreciating that. So, Mr. Harper, what is showing up on your hobby table lately?
Well, luckily we do almost a weekly hangout with Community Pat on I guess Hangouts, and he forces us to actually do some actual modeling and painting. It's usually it just sits on my desk and I never touch it, but doing those I actually get a lot done. And I actually made my new Pathfinders. I've been vocal about how I don't like the way Mantic did their Pathfinders. They look a little too ragtag for Enforcers. Enforcers are supposed to be like tough, regimented, like military guys, high end. And the Pathfinders that they make, they're all Mohawks and they're all, they look like Rebs to me. So I made my own. I did their torsos are regular Enforcer torsos, and their heads are the regular Enforcer heads, but they got the tag rifles and their regular pants, not the armored pants. So they're kind of a mix between an Enforcer and the Pathfinder, which I like a lot better. I think they look a lot cooler. And I got to use some of the basing material I picked up at Adepticon to do some terracotta mud kind of on their bases, and it turned out really cool. So I'm pretty happy with those. Other than that, I have a pile of stuff from Adepticon to do. Like Jack said, we have a lot of... I got a whole army starter set for Kings of War, the dwarves against the undead. And I think I traded the undead with Tyler from Dreadpath Zone, and I ended up with... So I have tons of dwarves to paint, and I also have tons of Rune Wars of the knights to paint. So I'm sure I'll be doing some of those for that Army in the Weekend, because there's a lot of stuff to paint.
There you go. So did you swap with Jack? He got all the undead. You got all the human types.
Yeah, for Rune Wars.
For Rune Wars.
Jack ended up with 2 boxes of Rune Wars, and I ended up with none because I kept giving mine away. But it worked out in the end, so I still ended up with quite a few knights. I traded some with Tyler once again, and Jack gave me quite a few, so I have more than enough knights mounted and unmounted to make quite a large army. I think I'm going to make a Brotherhood army. I do have some Raging Heroes, the women. Those the Kickstarter that happened a while ago. I have some knights, mounted knights from them coming in too. So I'm probably going to put those into a Brotherhood army of some sort. Because I already have a Basilian army, so I don't need 2 knighted armies. Might as well go for something new.
Boy, we've infected you guys big time. That's great.
Yeah, well, we have nothing left to do really with Deadzone. We have done everything. I do have some dwarves on my desk that I have to do and some striders, but other than that, we've done everything. So it's good to expand out into some fantasy. We've done too much sci-fi.
You say that, but that's because you're a prolific painter, and I paint very slowly and deliberately, and I could not get another miniature for 2 years and still be able to paint constantly. I still have my murder birds to put together and paint. I still have I have a ton. I have a ton.
Well, I know you still have Wrath of Kings from, 2 years ago. We got the Kickstarter, and Jack still hasn't painted one of those armies, so...
I painted one. I still have the other one I haven't.
Yep. What is it, the Pigmen, right?
Yes, Technus.
So we're trying to figure out a way to get those into Kings of War 2. We'll figure out who needs some Pigmen in their army.
There you go. Well, hey, you just take a look at the army lists. Night Stalkers are a good choice because nobody knows what they look like. So, you know what I mean? So you could basically model them up for representing almost any unit in there as long as it makes sense, You can make them doppelgangers, You can make them basically anything in that army. So, yeah, that'd be really cool. Very cool. So, yeah, I see the Robs are definitely holding down the hobby aspect here. They are fast painters and big-time terrain builders. So, Jack, you and I are just hanging in there, huh?
I would say that we're probably a little more patient, a little more willing to kick back, relax, and enjoy, live in the moment.
That's another way to say slow. I think he's just saying.
I just hear slacker. That's what I hear. Slacker.
That's right.
I hear burst painting. That's what I need to do. So that would be fantastic. So, Mr. Fanuff, do we have any Kings of War news going on right now, or is it all quiet on the Western Front? We're just waiting on the summer campaign book.
I don't think there's really any news. I think everything's already been said. Chris Kapsner's now on the rules committee. Lots and lots.
Rules Council. Rules
correct.
Council.
I guess that's the news, Mark. They're now dubbing it the Rules Council.
The Council of Seven.
Right. But that's about it. Lots and lots of tournaments popping up. Every time I turn around, there's 3 new ones. So I don't even know what to say. You can't get to them. It's like Pokemon. You try to get them all, but you can't.
That's it. Yeah, it's gotten to the point where they literally are popping up everywhere, which is fantastic. Really, really enjoying that. I couldn't even possibly hope to get to any of them. So going to Lone Wolf, though, I'm excited about that one. So they're actually talking about a one-day tournament over here in Cleveland, Rob. I almost fainted. So, my wife is nowhere near the hobby goddess your wife is, so I'm hoping I get a chance to go. So that's my biggest hope.
You won't. I have faith in your wife. She'll have something for you. Yeah, you'll have a party to go to or something you'll have to take care of.
That's right. Hey, I am missing a concert for my daughter to come down to Lone Wolf, so give her some credit. I am looking forward to coming down. That is going to be a great time. So, Rob, Jack, how is Deadzone doing with tournaments? Do you guys have a tournament scene? Are you guys trying to put one together? How's the community holding together? How do they approach Deadzone from a tournament standpoint, or escalation leagues in the hobby shops or anything like that?
Well, we don't really have any hobby shops or anything like that around us. So we're a lone island out in the middle of Canada, just by ourselves. But I know in England there's you see tournaments popping up all the time in England for Deadzone. It seems Deadzone is much more popular in England than it is in the States. Unlike Kings of War, it seems the opposite. It's still popular there, obviously, but it's huge in the States. Hopefully we get some more people playing some Deadzone. I know the Chicago area, with where Community Pat is, they have escalation leagues and things like that there, and campaigns. But yeah, so far not too much. We don't get as much for Deadzone. I think Deadzone it lends itself more to more or less fun play. I think tournaments other than like Adepticon, things like that, even Adepticon tournament, Jack can speak of that. I wouldn't say it was uber competitive, eh, Jack?
No. I was very pleasantly surprised at how it just seemed like a bunch of buddies that you'd never met sat down and just started playing a round robin of games. It was not, while it was organized, and Shane did a fantastic job making sure it was running smoothly and it was official and everything was going, it really just had the air of being at a local hobby store, really. And nothing like the pageantry you saw just a couple tables over with the parading of the armies and the loud noises and it's far different, but there's still time. Deadzone's relatively new. The second edition just came out relatively not that long ago, so there's time to get a little bit more of that pomp and circumstance.
Yeah, Kings of War, Clash of Kings was right next to the Dead Zone, so that's what Jack's alluding to there. They were impressive, seeing all the boards and stuff that they do. The only person who brought a demo, like what are they called, the display board, was Coach. Coach brought a display board for his. He was the only one. But I know Jeff Burbage said he wanted to do one. He just ran out of time. So hopefully next year we get a lot more display boards, that kind of stuff, because that's the kind of thing we want to see. Obviously, me and Jack are much more into the aesthetics of it than the competitive nature. So yeah, personally, would love to see that kind of cool stuff. And yeah, other than a few people at the Adepticon tournament, it was pretty laid back. Coach was pretty intense. That's why he won. And Tyler was pretty up there too. And there was a few others, but generally it was fun times.
Yeah.
Oh, very cool. Now, let's slide into a little Dead Zone news. Now, I'll lead off for you guys because I saw if you buy a terrain pack or something, I don't know if you guys saw this, you get a free copy of Dead Zone 2.0.
Yeah, that's pretty cool because people are buying the Battlezone terrain not just for Dead Zone. They're buying it for a bunch of other games. So getting a free rulebook might get a lot more people. Oh, hey, look at this! I got a book anyways. I'll read it and I'll look at it and hopefully play.
Yeah, it's one of those ideas that like once you see it, you go, oh, of course. That makes perfect sense. Why didn't anyone think of that before? People are buying that terrain to make. We saw that that terrain being used for boards for everything. I thought maybe what was it? Malifaux. I saw a board with it inlaid in the bottom of the actual board. There's a ton of them, and you just throw those rules in, and you're playing the game you buy the train for, and then all of a sudden you're like, I'm just gonna flip through this book a little bit and see. Some rebs catch your eye, maybe some enforcers, and then next thing you know.
Yep, and with that it's a hardback rule book too. It's a really nice rule book. It's not some chintzy, like quick start rules. It's the hardcover 2.0 full rule book. So it's usually $40. So you're getting that for free with the sets, and the sets run from about 80 to 150 US, and you get all that terrain. And I know once again we were playing on Tyler from Dreadpath Zone's stuff, and people kept walking by. We were just playing some games at Adepticon, and all the time people who didn't know what we were playing were like, oh, look at that, I love that terrain, and they were really, it was the biggest thing that caught people's attention for sure.
Awesome. Anything else you guys got going on in Dead Zone right now, or is everything gearing up for Warpath?
Yeah, Warpath is the big thing right now. I think the official release was at Adepticon, even though they only really had the slipcase with the 3 books, and they had a few of the Enforcer planes, but they sold out pretty quick. A lot of the vehicles are still backlogged for the Kickstarter, so we're still waiting for those to come out. Once those hit, I think Warpath's going to explode.
Yeah, when is our Wave 2 coming out? You guys know better. I want to say July, but correct me.
Supposedly it was late April, but I'd be very surprised if that happened. I would guess more May or June.
Oh, that soon? I'm excited about that. I've got some Forge Father stuff coming. Yeah,
the July date, I think, is the general release, not to Kickstarter people. That's to everyone else.
Oh, that's how I mixed it up. All right.
So that should be good. I cannot wait. I do love my vehicles.
When are we going to hear about Warzone the Podcast?
Well, we're definitely not doing Warpath, but there is another one out there. Jack, should we plug those guys? I don't know. They probably don't deserve it.
Was that yes? They I'm a big fan of their podcast. I listen all the time. It's a couple of young rapscallions. The podcast is called The 4 Foot Snake. And
well, obviously that's a good joke because you obviously don't listen to that podcast.
But no, it's Coach and Tyler. They do a podcast called The Third Sphere, and that's all about Warpath, and they're going to be focusing mostly on the fluff in the game for Warpath. So if anybody's interested in Warpath, go to them because we're probably not going to play it. We love Dead Zone.
Yeah.
Really, I remember listening to the podcast. You guys were all fired up for Warpath coming out.
Yeah, it's you get to a point where you're just like, why do we need another game? We already have the game we like to play. That's why we're interested in Kings of War, because it's different. Like Warpath's just a bigger version of Dead Zone, which we like Dead Zone as it is. Where Kings of War is totally different, so that's why we're more interested in playing that. if we're going to play a mass battle game, we'd probably play Kings of War.
Yeah, if we're going to branch out, we're going to go over to Kings of War and then go that way. We can scale up Deadzone all we want, but if we want to really play something, we'll have to get a few more games under our belt. We've only really got a couple, but when we do, then we'll be Kings of War. Kings of War will be our game of choice for mass combat.
Yep.
Oh, very, very cool. So, are you guys doing Star Saga, though? Are you guys going to go down?
Oh, yeah. Star Saga, that plays into... We're old RPGers from way back and currently even, and I think that plays more into that kind of feel. We do love the that more personal feel. So I'm sure we'll get some of that in. We play a game called Shadows of Brimstone, which is a dungeon crawler through some... It's a Wild West game. You're fighting monsters and stuff. So I think that'll probably fill that spot once it comes in. We'll see how the rules are and stuff. Tyler, once again, has been testing it, and he loves it, so we trust him. Hopefully it works out. And mostly we backed it to get all the miniatures for Deadzone, but... Because there is those Nameless coming. Nameless as a faction in Deadzone is going to be awesome.
Yeah, that'll be great. Well, if we get you guys into Kings of War, we'll see you at Lone Wolf next year, so...
Yeah, maybe. We'll get to some actual Kings of War tournaments. That'd be fun.
Speaking of Kings of War, why don't we go ahead and slide into a commercial break? And our main topics today, we're going to cover Kings of War for the Deadzone the Podcast audience, and then we're going to go ahead and take a look at Deadzone for the Kings of War audience.
Jack!
Is that you, the ghost of Christmas past?
No, I'm the ghost of Podcast's future!
I'm intrigued. Do tell me more.
The future of podcasts is written in old-time radio. I know it sounds oxymoron, but it's not.
Where can I find this podcast?
It's oldtimeradio.podbean.com.
And how many doubloons will that cost me?
It's free, unlike my soul. Oh, I have to go there. Bye.
You boy, what day is it today?
It's Canada Day, it seems.
Well, go buy that biggest Christmas goose in the window.
That makes no sense. I'm just taking your money and leaving.
Finland oldtimeradio.podbean.com.
Welcome back to Deadzone the Podcast, or
Couter Charge.
podcast. Next up, we're going to touch a little bit on what is Kings of War and why you should play it. So Kings of War is a ranks and flanks army scale tabletop war game set in a classic high fantasy setting. Those of us that have played these games for a while might call it Warhammer, right? That's kind of what Warhammer used to be. But now Kings of War's kind of picked up that mantle. So what are some of the highlights of Kings of War? Because obviously it is a pretty popular game here in the U.S., and we have lots and lots of people that have transitioned away either from Warhammer Fantasy, other games. So, what are the highlights? Well, obviously the first one is it scratches that rank and file itch. With AOS coming onto the scene, replacing Warhammer Fantasy, there was a hole left by 8th edition's departure from the world. One thing to make sure everybody knows, Kings of War is not Warhammer Light. I think any similarities between Warhammer and Kings of War should just be chalked up to the fact that it's from the same author. So that's number one. It scratches that rank and file itch. And it's also what Rob and Jack alluded to earlier. It is a fantasy game, which is quite different than, say, a 40K or a Warpath or a Deadzone. So next up, simple mechanics with great gameplay depth. This is a game that was built to be a tournament game. On the flip side, though, it's super easy to learn. I mean, I can play it. Mark can sort of play it. But ultimately, it's very difficult to master. So it's a great game. It's a good game that you can get into quickly, but there's a lot of legs there. The third thing that we, at least, is that the armies are reasonably balanced. This is probably the most important thing. This is not a list-building game. This is not a game where you build the killer list and then you just show up at the table and people are awestruck by your brilliance and just flee from you, right? You actually have to play the game. You have to deploy. You have to maneuver. You have to have the combats. You have to play the game, and that's where we win and lose games. It's not in army creation. It is also what I would dub it is increased deterministic gameplay. In other words, it is slightly less random than a lot of other competitive games out there. There are dice rolls that's a D6 is the main mechanic in this game, but you're not going to see the swings and roundabouts that you might see even like if you harken back to Warhammer 8th edition. Fast gameplay is a huge thing, a huge bonus to Kings of War. You can get a 2K game under 2 hours fairly easily. In fact, we now have 2-day GTs, which when we played Warhammer, we're doing 5 games. We're now doing 6 games, and in Australia, they're playing 7 games, all in the same amount of time. So and I know, Mark, you're a huge fan of the low point game, right?
Oh, absolutely. I love 1,000 points. Boy, we can knock those bad boys out in 45, 50 minutes. I mean, and back in the old days, for 40K, we used to play Combat Patrol, and I used to play it with my kids all the time, 400 points, and they're about the same length of time. It's great. We throw them out. Colin and I, and we'll have to do a little episode on this, but we have a couple of different builds that we have in each box of the armies, and we pull an army box out and we pull a build and drop it on the table. Quick and easy. I always let them set up the table, and we just play for narrative fun and just have a great time. So as opposed to the more tournament setting, but great fast home game. And Joe Neat brought that up at the Q&A session at Adepticon at Mantic Open Night. I mean, he said that Kings of War a lot is doing very, very well, and a lot of the players you just don't see in the hobby shop or at the tournaments. They're playing at home for fun, so which is very, very cool. So I see a lot of upside for our tournaments.
Absolutely. Well, it's certainly a game that accommodates the casual and the hardcore tournament player alike. So we also have a game that's unit-based rather than model-based, and a lot of people may be scratching their heads what that means. Well, traditional games like Warhammer Fantasy, you base your characters, your models individually on a base, and you collect them together in a large movement tray. Whereas in Kings of War, you have the whole unit base. It's one big chunk. Maybe it's 100 by 80 and 100 millimeters by 80 millimeters, and you may have 20 guys on there. It opens up a lot of hobby opportunities. And certainly for me, my favorite thing, it makes it fast to set up the game and to take it down. Mark, I know you're a big fan.
Absolutely. Unit bases matter. Right, Robin, Jack? We'll get to that later, but no, the unit basing is fantastic. It's one of the things that used to drive me nuts about Warhammer was putting the armies and trying to put everybody back in the unit trays all the time, pulling them out, putting individual models. Oh, I so enjoy just popping that unit base, dropping it in it. And you know what? I've gone to using some boxes, like envelope boxes and stuff like that for just our shelf storage. You just pop them in and out. Game setup is so fast now. It is just fantastic. And transport is easy. And, I got all these fancy battle foam fags, and I'm waiting for the day Romeo will come out with unit tray inserts. But I don't know how or when that's going to happen. But, basically, when I traveled to some of the, like the Ocon and stuff like that, I just had my box filled it with some packing peanuts, and away I went. It was fantastic for army transport. I love the speed of setup. I just love the multi-basing. And like I said, my Forces of Nature is going to be my first true multi-based army. I'm really looking forward to putting that together.
Obviously, Kings of War also accommodates a lot of existing fantasy armies from other game systems, whether that's Warhammer. I'm loving that you guys are, have gotten a free starter box from Fantasy Flight, and you're using those to play Kings of War. That's fantastic. We've got 21 armies that are in the books. So, I mean, if you can't find something that tickles your fancy in 21 armies, I don't know what to say. I mean, I think there's something there for everybody. Obviously, another big thing about Kings of War is we have a very responsive company that gives us lots of support, and the really cool thing, I think, is that we're getting yearly tweaks to the game. So rather than every 2 months you're getting a new codex or a new army book, you are getting basically one $15 book once a year that tweaks the games, but changes out a few of the key magic items, maybe adds in a few spells, adds some new scenarios, and just keeps the game fresh. So we're continually keeping the game fresh without the power creep that you might see in other game systems. And finally, maybe the most important thing, Kings of War is a great value, right? You can use your existing army to get started. When you're ready to buy Mantic models, they're not terribly expensive. They're a good value. And then obviously the rule books and the supplements and all the stuff that you need to purchase to get started it's not insanely expensive, and also you don't have to buy stuff every single month like Magic the Gathering.
Pokemon.
There you go. You got to get them all.
I can't tell you how much my son spends on Pokemon. It's like, dude, buy models.
Exactly.
Although I do find that with Kings of War, because there is 21 different armies, all the time I'm like, oh, I want to start that army. I want to start this army. It does ended up getting more expensive because you want every single army.
Yeah, that is a bit nefarious on their part. They probably planned that intentionally.
I'm sure they did.
Well, Mr. Harper, it's nice to hear that you have the same gamer ADHD I've got. So that's one of my biggest deficits is I keep shifting army to army to army to army to army. So I if I could just focus on one at a time, I'd be dangerous.
Yeah, you'd actually know how to play.
Oh, yeah. Hey, you know what, Rob? I'm looking forward to meeting you in round 2 at Lone Wolf, so... Because we'll both lose our opening round game.
Oh, for sure. I have no
we've got a shot
pretenses.
At it. So.
I have no pretenses. I am going to get destroyed. But that's okay. I will enjoy my Four Locos alcoholic energy drink. And, yeah.
Well, Mr. Fawkes and I are planning on having a slap fight for last place, so it should be very, very interesting. So, but we'll talk about that in shout-outs later on.
Mm-hmm.
Rob, Jack, any words of wisdom for your audience, and our audience, for that matter, about Kings of War at all?
Well, we're just excited to... I particularly am excited to build armies. Playing is always secondary for me, but building those armies, that's so much fun. I do love the multi-bases and what you can do with scenic bases and stuff. That's the hobby part of it is making me drool, frankly. And I already have a few armies already started because just for fun. I didn't even plan on playing any of them, but now maybe we'll get some actual games in. That'd be more fun.
Yeah, because you were getting a lot of those Mantic Crazy boxes, and they were putting in ogres and women riding panthers and all manner of stuff, and you couldn't help yourself. Before you knew it, you actually had probably a decent army, and you didn't A, play the game, or B, have any interest. So now with that carrot hanging in front of you to actually play the game, yeah, that could get scary.
Yeah, I'll have to start selling armies off because I do enjoy building them too much.
Well, there you go. Well, you know what? You guys like playing the skirmish games, low points, and I think Kings of War really holds up well at low points. So, I mean, Colin and I play on a 4x4 here, so which, would easily hold a nice Deadzone mat on it, because that's usually 2x2, right?
Yes.
So, so that would be great. So if you just put 4 mats together, you would have a Kings of War battlefield. So I'm sure you guys have played a large Deadzone game before with 4 mats, I would imagine, right?
We actually got a custom mat made, a 6x4 Deadzone mat made, so yeah.
Wow!
We like the bigger games.
So, yeah, where does someone get a mat like that made?
We actually got it made by Mats by Mars. They said they can do anything. I think it was 4 foot wide and up to 150 feet long. So if you want anything in that area with any kind of grid on it, they have a lot of different versions, like hex grids or 3. Like for Deadzone, it's 3x3, 3-inch by 3-inch. But yeah, they can pretty much do anything. So you just talk to Mario at Mats by Mars, and they can hook you up.
Now, what kind of material are those mats made of? Are they the mousy pad material, or are they like the the thinner material that the cigar box battle mats are made out of? The like felty material, or are they something else?
No, they're vinyl. They're actually like almost like what you make signs out of, like what it is?
Oh,
Jack,
like the
you?
banner posters.
Yeah, almost banner material, but it doesn't wrinkle, it doesn't crease, and if we've used them plenty of times. We've never marked them. They're dynamite. I don't want to turn this into a commercial for Mats by Mars, but yeah, if you're looking for Deadzone mats or anything really, I saw they were at Adepticon, and I was thoroughly impressed. Coach picked up one that he's using for what was that samurai game he picked up? Test of Honor?
Yeah, it's the bolt action.
Yeah, the Warlord Games medieval Japanese game, with samurais.
Yeah, you got like Yeah, it's like a snowboard kind of he's using for that.
A wintry one. Oh, it was dynamite. Yeah. So, anyways, Match by Mars.
Commercial over.
Yeah.
Oh no! Well, there you go, Rob. But now we got to get Mats from Mars on the show, so we got to check that out. Definitely.
Absolutely. I love mats.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I'm interested in the overlaying hex grids and stuff like that. So you guys have given me some homework to do. I'm very excited about that. So Mario, get ready for my phone call, or email, whichever. So I'm excited to talk about that. So very nice. And you know what? The other thing with Kings of War and Deadzone, kind of a crossover, which is one of the inspirations for this episode, is the models can kind of transition a little bit between the two, particularly the plague models, that are near and dear to Jack's heart. So, you can use those in a number of Kings of War armies to represent some of the units that don't already have models. So,
yeah, we saw the Adepticon. What was it, Jack? Do you remember what they were?
No, well, I know what they were in Deadzone. They were the Type 2s, the slightly larger, and they were painted like a white,
ghostly kind of. They're like.
So I don't know what unit they were meant to represent, but I forget who it was. Someone came over and said, "You got to see this."
Yeah, I think you're talking about Kara Brown's Abyssal Dwarf Army, probably.
Yes, I believe it was. Yep.
Whatever they were supposed to be, just the way they were painted, and it changed the dynamic of the model itself. I was impressed, and it was impressive enough that people came over and said, "You got to see this." So, kudos to them.
And I know John Carter was using Mars Attacks and Walking Dead miniatures in his Kings of War army too.
That was their team tournament army. Mike and John Carter. Yeah, they had, what was it? The Walking Martians or something like that. That was a very cool board. If you go to Mike Carter's blog, you can check that out. I mean, that is a absolutely wacky army. But yeah, they got the Martians and the Walking Dead models, and they put Kings of War armies together. And that's one of the great things about Kings of War. You can really use any models, I mean, and in this case, they used Mantic models as well. So as long as, people know what the units are, you can go ahead and use them. So very, very cool. That was very creative. They even put a Mantic store on their display board. Did you guys see that?
Yeah, that's right.
That was fantastic. But yeah, for in particular, there's a couple of the plague models I think really translate, because you got plague zombies. And, they got a little armor on them, but, you could screw around with those with some head swaps too. And the plague models, in general, like the Type 2s, that Type 1 would make a really cool monster. Night Stalkers would be a great army for using plague models for, because, there aren't any official Mantic models for them. So that would be very nice. And I thought the plague models would also make good Tortured Souls, but then Mantic went ahead and put out Tortured Souls models. But, they're pretty similar. So, if you got extra Deadzone models laying around, that would be very, very cool. So.
And coming up, the Nameless faction that's coming to Deadzone, they obviously would be good for the Trident Realms. I'm sure they'll be able to work that way. Maybe some arm swaps and stuff to take away any. We haven't seen any models yet, so we're not sure how futuristic their weapons are going to be. But that you need more fishmen, you got them.
Yeah, probably work good for Night Stalkers as well.
Yeah, Night Stalkers is just wide open, and that's why I was plugging the Star Saga Kickstarter on Couter Charge, because those models would be just being fantastic. Fantastic for Night Stalkers and things like that. And those sculpts just look awesome, and they're all one piece, so which is very, very cool. So, I don't know. Did you guys know, is that late jump-in still open on the Pledge Manager, or?
I'm not sure about that. I'm sure if you emailed them, they'd probably try to get you in there anyways. They're always happy to take people's money.
That's true. Ronnie's always after a good buck, so we love you, Ronnie. That's fantastic. Otherwise, we wouldn't be playing your games. They're good. So, very, very cool. Anybody have anything else on Kings of War? We'll slide into a commercial break, and we'll come back on the other side, and Rob and Jack are going to take us through the Deadzone experience. Anything else, guys?
Nope, I think that's it.
Guys, we'll see you on the other side, and we're going to be talking Deadzone.
You're listening to Couter Charge.
Welcome back. This is Deadzone the Podcast in Couter Charge. We're still going. Yes, this is an epic one. So, getting into Deadzone. for those Kings of War people. I know at the Adepticon there was some of the players from the Clash of Kings came up to us and asked us what we were up to, and saw we had Deadzone the Podcast shirts on, or sweatshirts, and they asked us about it, and they're like, oh, we always wanted to get into Deadzone, so hopefully this will help them get in. And Deadzone is a sci-fi skirmish game, and it's set in the far future that's ruled by evil corporations with lots of menacing aliens. And I don't know if there's actually a faction that's the good guys. Everybody seems to be out for their own good. But there is at least 7 factions. There's going to be a new faction. What do we have now, Jack? We got the Enforcers, the Plague, Forge Fathers. What else we got? Rebs, yeah. Marauders, orcs. We don't like orcs, but they are there. And eventually we're gonna have the GCPS. The beta for them is out. They're like almost like Colonial Marines from Aliens. And as we said before, the Nameless, which are kind of like squiddy Cthulhu-esque fishmen. They'll be coming in with Star Saga too. So lots to choose from there. Not 21 factions, but there is quite a few. And I think there's something for everyone in those factions. They tend to cover all the bases. You got the hard-hitting guys, you got the fast little guys.
The thing that makes Deadzone different than, say, Kings of War is that the factions aren't necessarily balanced. It's why it's not a good tournament game, because it doesn't lend itself to a tournament when... And I think it's by design. I know there would be people who would disagree. I know Coach would disagree that the play, because you want to win.
Yep, there's some flavor. Every faction has a flavor. Like right now there's Veermen. They're the Ratmen. They need some updating for the rules, but they're still really fun to paint and fun to model. And they're still fun to play a little bit. You're going to get killed, but they're still... Jack played them a lot in the pre-Adepticon matches against people. And it's a good army to play against if you want to learn how to play. But they're going to be fixed soon, hopefully. And but generally, I think most of the armies, you can win or lose. But there's some power armies in there, like certain builds. I guess you can build certain builds with certain armies that would work a little bit better. But we tend to just we'll build a theme army or build something we want to try out and play it out. And it's always fun, because you never know what's going to happen. You're rolling D8s. There's a lot of chance in this game. Once again, not like Kings of War. You get a little more chance. Throwing grenades around. A lot smaller board. It's still tactical, I would say, but you're in a very claustrophobic board with the battle zone terrain, or any other terrain. We have quite a bit of other terrain, as long as it fits on the board and you can tell where people are standing. Because it is a gridded system. There is grids on the board, 3x3 grids. No measuring. So I think it's a really easy game to get into, and it's super fun. Well, we do a podcast about it, so obviously it is fun.
Yeah, it's a gateway game. It's just board game enough to have, and small enough that you can start small. And now with Firefight and Warpath, it's leading to bigger and more, if that's what you want. But right now, it's a fun, fast 20-minute games.
Yeah, like maximum, I'd say maximum with 200 points in an hour and a half, maybe, if you're really slow. But like, I think that's what the tournament was, an hour and a half for a game, and very few people actually made it to the time limit. And that's playing people that, don't know each other, so they don't know how fast they can go back and forth. And me and Jack, we barely ever get over an hour, I'd say, Jack?
The board setup in the tournament was a good 1/4 of that. Putting the barrels and getting this stuff. Once you start playing the game itself, it's pretty quick. If you have a basic knowledge, if you've got the rules down enough that you're comfortable enough to play, then the game just starts flying. It's a more of a cinematic, more of a high. It's like a kung fu movie,
action movie. Yeah. Yeah, people are dying. People are doing epic moves and getting shot down, and it is much more cinematic. I think that's the perfect word for it. You're playing through a sci-fi anime or something like that. It's quite fast, quite fun, easy to learn. Like really, there's I think 10 pages of rules, if that. It's not the book is mostly about fluff and armies. There's not much in the actual rules, and once again, easy to play. Still tactical. There's a lot of tactical choices, and if you like list building, there is list building options. But you can just throw what you get in the starter sets and play it out, and it's super fun.
Some people are all about the lists, and it is list building, and it is for those people who like to just sit and tinker with a list. We know some people like that. They just can't get enough of what ifs and what fits here and what fits there. But really, for Deadzone, one of the main reasons it's easy to get into is the cost. So some factions you need 8 models.
Yeah.
And you have a playable list, and you can play the game 8 models. That's it. You can paint 8 models. You can buy and paint 8 models.
Yep. As a side thing, if you're playing Kings of War and you just want a side sci-fi game that's totally different from Kings of War, you paint up 8 models. You get in there, and yeah, roll some 8s. It's all about the 8s. That's about it. Rob and Mark, do you have any questions about Deadzone?
Yeah, I mean, it sounds fantastic. In fact, our club, basically, this is kind of our side game. So we've got Kings of War, and then we play, most of the guys play Deadzone, and certainly kind of what you said, we don't really treat it super competitively. We play Kings of War to be cutthroat, and we play Deadzone to kind of unwind. But I have a question. Every time I've played, my enforcers get this super cool kicked out of them by the Forge Fathers. Is that normal, or did I just have a bad person running a demo for me?
Well, Coach did win the tournament with enforcers, and I don't know if he.
So okay.
I don't know if he met any Forge Fathers on the field. I think he killed a lot of plague, but I think it's about building a list. Like we do a show with Coach called Team Building Exercise, and maybe listen to that and see if you can find a right group of enforcers to go against those Forge Fathers. They do have tough armor. You want some AP against those guys.
Yeah, it was like I had 5 or 6 guys, because it was an entry, it was like an intro game, but playing like 5 or 6 of my enforcers against 3 Forge Fathers, and they're just running roughshod all over me. Like, I guess the point is I've got to get a list.
Yeah, and it matters if it was version 1 or version 2, because I know in version 1 you could have a small list like that. I used to play for the enforcers, they have these tough guys called Peacekeepers. They're pretty much powered armor guys. And I remember playing 3 of those going, and Jack would have a hell of a time trying to kill me. But now with version 2, it's those guys wouldn't stand a chance. There's a lot more killing in version 2. See, numbers matter.
But for the few games that I've played so far, I love it because it scratches a different itch. Mm-hmm. Fantasy's all well and good, but sci-fi, skirmish level sci-fi, obviously it's a different theme, but also it doesn't require the time commitment because, as you alluded to, if you're playing Kings of War and you're getting a big giant army, even though it might not be expensive, it's still a time commitment to get it all painted and everything. So it's nice to have a side game, if you will.
Yeah, for sure. That's exactly what I would say. If you're playing Kings of War, this would be a perfect side game because it is totally different. It is you'd get totally different feel out of it. And even when you lose, it's still, you have things you're talking about. Oh, remember when this guy did this? And it's a lot of recalling back to crazy stuff that happened, or lucky bounces of grenades, or things like that. And yeah.
Now you got me thinking I need to build a table of terrain. I think that's what I got to do next.
That is, like, I know, once again, Tyler from Dreadpath Zone, he's all about the building his boards. But we pretty much use the stock terrain now. We have tons of terrain, but we tend just to bring out the battle zones and fill up the board. Make sure it's really dense so that you get high, guys. Cover is very important in the game because if you're standing out in the open, you're dead. Like, you get a lot of dice rolled at you. So, but yeah, I think that covers it. And bases don't matter in this game. That's
specific faction that you would recommend somebody getting into Deadzone for the first time to use that would be newbie friendly.
Plague, or I would say Marauders too. Is if you can put up with having orcs on your team, I think Marauders are pretty easy to play because they do have a lot of advantages. They're very cheap, even though they shouldn't be. So they you can get some good armies out of them.
The ups and downs are for new. If you're getting into a new faction, that you're getting the Marauders are way more powerful than most of the other factions. I'd say they're in the top 3. but the models are horrific looking.
Well, some people actually like the way that orcs look. I don't understand it personally, but no.
And but I think the Plague right now, even just the starter sets you would get, have a wider variety, and you're going to be able to find out what your play style is and how you want to play. And then right now, I think I don't think it's hyperbole to say that the Plague has the best selection once you even start getting different expansions and stuff. So, like, I would say if you just want to start out and be competitive and Marauders, but if you really just want to get your feet wet and see what you want to do, have fun modeling and have a lot of options, I would say Plague.
Yep, but really, I think you should choose your faction by whichever one you think looks the best, or you see playstyle. Like if you like tanks, go with the dwarves, the Forge Fathers. If you like more speed, you might go with Pathfinders with the Enforcers. If you like the look of an orc for some reason, Marauders. But Asterians, I think Asterians are probably one of the harder ones to play. Veermen right now they're not up to snuff, but like I said, they're due for a update. And Rebs, people really love the Rebs. The Rebs probably are the most variety in models. Like you could all different alien types, and you can really have some fun with those guys. But yeah, pretty much anything works. But I think Jack is correct. If you like the look of the Plague and you like that kind of hand-to-hand kind of play style, because they're much more melee, I would say, because their shooting really is terrible. But I think it matters what your play style is. That you could see which one you like the best. And once again, listen to a team building exercise, because you'll find out how each one plays and what you might be interested in that way. And unfortunately, bases, and we do joke that bases don't matter, but bases are part of the line of sight rules. The line of sight rules are true line of sight, and currently bases do matter, but we're trying to make people disregard bases, because man, it sucks when you're trying to get a clear shot and just like a quarter of the base is just hidden behind a post or something, and you don't get a clear shot because of the bases. It's something that we have a soapbox about, but generally it's a fun, easy game.
Which in Kings of War, you can make a diorama and add a little here, a little tuft of grass, and maybe have the guy stick, dynamic poses and do what you want. Right now in Deadzone, because of just some of the way the line of sight rules work, if you want to get creative, if you want to showcase, if you want to make something that's nice, some rules lawyer will go, okay, well now I'm going to bend you over a barrel for having the audacity to have artistic merit. Like
that's right.
Right now, it doesn't lend itself to some of the showmanship that I think
it deserves. Yeah, exactly.
Well, yeah, certainly in Kings of War, the systematic line of sight, where it's not true line of sight, helps us from a hobby perspective, because you're free to do what you want to do, right? And you don't have to worry about the impact by some ruse lawyer that says, well, technically the dragon's tail is 6 inches,
Yeah, that's Deadzone. If you took out the bases, it wouldn't matter. Like I guess some people could model for advantage, but generally your guys are in their poses that they come in, or you can repose them. But it's just the base, because the base is a lot bigger, I guess, than the model. Like generally, it really affects the line of sight rules. And once again, if you just took those out, it'd be a clean, easy thing. Bases should just be holding your model up. It shouldn't matter about seeing it or not. And then you could do crazy stuff like having tall tufts of grass or something that you probably wouldn't do now, because you don't want to have anything sticking out, because people could shoot it. But that's just that. Once again, that's a side fight that we're.
You're fighting the good fight.
There you go. Do you guys think systematic line of sight would work in Deadzone? Because right now it's true line of sight. So,
No,
you guys are familiar with the Kings of War rules. I don't know if that would work in Deadzone or not.
I think it would take away the base of the game, is that you're trying to get right face down in looking around corners, trying to see guys and looking through windows. That is the main point of the game. I think you do need true line of sight for Deadzone. It's just needs to be tweaked slightly, but generally it works great.
I agree. I understand in Kings of War, you can say, well, hills are this high, this unit is this tall, this, it just mathematically, boom, it's done. Because everything's wide open and you can't say model a siege engine in such a way that, now I have an advantage. But in Deadzone, I think that the key is that they want you to, kind of, can I see through that window? What if I just crane my head this way? It's a different feel, a different aesthetic. I don't think they would. I don't think it could work that way.
We actually have laser pointers that we use to get line of sight and stuff, it's fun shooting a laser pointer, trying to shoot through a window, around a corner. You're like, okay, can I, laser doesn't lie. That's the...
Well, that harkens me back to 5th edition 40K, so...
I don't know what this 40K is. I've never heard of it.
I'm sorry I said a dirty word, so...
I thought it was AOS in space.
Not yet. Soon.
AOS in space, there you go. Hey, so what point games do you guys usually play? So, I mean, is a 100-point game considered a small game? You guys were talking 200. What's a normal point level for?
100 points, you would never... I think you play demos at 100 points. I don't know if you'd ever play a regular game at 100 points. You start getting to play fun units, getting the Striders, which are the mechs. You're getting those in at 200 points. You get a lot more variety in your choices at 200 points, so that's what we play. But we're gonna start expanding up, maybe past 200 points too, to get some bigger games going. We'll have to see how that works out.
200 is the sweet spot for having to be able to move in units that you want, like the different models you want, but also keeps the games quick and easy. It's tutorials at 100. Games that want to play at 200, and then after that, once you got all the rules under your belt and you really, you've opened up the purse strings and bought a whole bunch of models and you really want to just go at it, then move on from there. But 200, that's the perfect number.
Do you guys get vehicles in at 200 points, or do you got to go to 400, or where do you start getting vehicles in there?
Well, the only vehicles in Deadzone currently are Striders, which are the mechs, and there's some jet bikes and motorcycles and things like that. The big vehicles like tanks and planes and stuff for Warpath aren't officially in Deadzone, but believe you me, we're going to be making some rules for that because we want vehicles in Deadzone. Mantic has said that they're not going to have vehicles in Deadzone, but we will force vehicles into Deadzone.
Oh, they will.
Oh yes, they will.
You have the table space for it. Yeah,
Yeah, don't they have doesn't the Plague have some kind of chem cannon on wheels or something? And
Marauders have a kind of a little track gun, but all the vehicles are pretty small. There's little guns. What is it called, Jack? I don't even know what the one is called. The Veermen have one that we call the Wiener Cannon, but
that's it. Yeah, the chem cannon or whatever.
But
it's
they're
called.
They're pretty small. They're actually smaller than the Striders. All those vehicles are rather small if you actually saw them compared. So nothing like a tank or one of the flyers from a Warpath yet, or the mules or the things like that.
Right now, they'd probably be closer, if you had to think of it in a real world conditions, like a real world, maybe artillery rather than say armored. Most of the stuff is a gun on wheels, or a gun, drones, stuff like that. Very, very small. Not like the tanks that the Warpath. Not like the interceptors, the stuff that we're expecting, the mules.
Yeah, those are all like jeeps and planes and things. So, yep, we'll get some rules in. We are planning to do our own house rule book. I don't know if we've ever really announced it, but yes, the unearthed intel will be coming, and we'll have a bunch of house rules for that kind of stuff. All the stuff we like to change, because we're never happy with rules. So, expect that in the near future.
So a world-exclusive announcement here on the crossover episode then, huh?
There you go.
To all 10 listeners.
The first of many, I'm sure. We've got a whole bunch of cats let out of the bag.
Well, there you go.
Very, very good. So, you guys got anything else to enlighten us with Deadzone?
No, I don't think so. I know you wanted to say if there's any Kings of War models that you could use in Deadzone. I know I personally, after building a bunch of Kings of War dwarves, all those hammers and stuff, I would love to move in to some of my guys, some of my Forge Fathers, because the weapon options, I think, are in Kings of War for hand-to-hand weapons are a lot nicer. So there's definitely that kind of stuff. Other than that, I'm not sure if there's head swaps and things like that, but generally the models, I don't think... it is sci-fi, so it's hard to fit in fantasy guys in a sci-fi world.
I was thinking more of the zombies,
of course.
know? I know the plague zombies are one thing, but I don't know if the regular zombies would be pretty cool, or the ghouls, like some kind of feral dudes,
If you
I
need
don't know
more
if they'd
zombies,
fit in an army, or if they'd be more for like a campaign,
If you need more zombies, Mantic seems to give zombies away like chiclets. You can get those anywhere, but I think Jack has a pile of zombies he hasn't put together, and he has his whole side of his desk is covered with magnetized zombies. So, yes, if you always need more zombies, but
we gave away a lot of zombies at Adepticon to the needy, the poor, any urchins, any little English urchins that came up with their little wooden bowls, zombies.
Yeah.
So are you going to be the new recipient of the 1,000 Zombie Challenge since Dave Witek petered out on his? Is that what we're going to do, Jack?
1,000 zombies?
You didn't hear about that? Yeah, Dave was going to put together a 1,000 zombie Warhammer army.
Oh.
And then the world blew up, so then he got stuck with all these zombies, so now he's giving them away. But yeah, there you go. You should paint 1,000 zombies, Jack. You could pick up the mantle. You could be the guy who does it.
I think he'd shoot himself in the head before he ever did that.
Yeah, he'd become a zombie before he finishes them.
Exactly. No, the pace at which I paint at, Rob can attest that I don't think
your lifespan isn't long enough.
Well, hey, you know what? Maybe you assemble and Rob paints.
Yeah.
A team effort.
Yeah, zombies, man.
Team effort. There was a lot of silence on Rob's part there. I don't know if he wants to paint 1,000 zombies.
No.
All right. You guys can tell. We'll talk about that later. But that 1,000 zombie challenge is yet to be picked up. So
I might have
I know Rob Fanuff could.
I might have 1,000 enforcers at this point, but zombies, I don't think so.
No way. That's a lot of models.
1,000 enforcers?
No. I probably have...
what was that, Rob?
I probably have a couple hundred enforcers at least.
That's a lot of enforcers.
Every time there's been Kickstarters in Warpath, and I can't stop myself. I have about 10 different types of enforcer armies now. So, yes.
Well, you're all ready for Warpath.
Oh yeah, we could play Warpath pretty easily with the mounted models. Once again, so cheap. Mantic models, not just in Kickstarters, generally are cheap, but we got them through the Kickstarters, which are ridiculously cheap. And we have too many models. We had to buy a new bag to get, because we just ran out of space. There's literally piles of models at Jack's feet currently.
Wow. All right. So, anything else before we cut over to a commercial break?
No, I think we're good.
Sounds good.
No, that's good. That's good.
All right, fantastic. Oh yeah, you know what? I'm painting Forge Father, so I'm going to play those in Deadzone. So I'm going to have to pull those together, and when we hit Adepticon next year, guys, we're definitely going to slide in a game. So
yeah, we didn't get a chance to play anything this time. We were by the time
I was only there on Saturday, so
and we were bushed by the time.
Mantic Night was kind of tied up, I mean, there was like one Deadzone. If you didn't jump into a game right away, you were basically done and you were drinking like us.
Well, I'm sure if we had been so tired, we could have broken out some games, but we were dead tired at that point. At least I was.
And speaking of Mantic Night, I was mugged that night. A ruffian came up and took my miniature from my Mantic bag. And
your Varinger guy, I heard. Yeah.
Who's gonna?
I don't know. Mark said something about
who's gonna be the recipient
of
that Varinger? Yes, Mr. Fanuff, I will be mailing that to you definitely. And yes, you have to thank Jack for that. Limited edition Varinger figure, so he actually got it in his swag bag.
So he's the one that got the cool...
They were sold out at the Mantic booth.
So he actually got a cool swag bag.
Yeah. Most of us got Blaines. We got a lot of Blaines.
Yeah, I got 2 Blaines. Kylie and I each got one. So, but yeah, somehow Jack ended up with a Varinger figure. So, much to the delight of one Robert Fanuff. So, he was very happy camper. So,
Well, because I asked Mark to get it for me, and of course, he's a slacker, so he didn't do it.
hey, I went back. They were out of them.
He's not a slacker.
So very cool.
He had my Rob there lure me over. He's like waving a beer, and I come over, and all of a sudden, out of the darkness, Mark's on me, and he's got my shirt up. Over. Give me your miniatures. What?
You shirted him.
All I remember, I said, not the face.
Hey, to be fair, I tried to give you one of my Blaines, but you would not take it. So
I think Jack ended up with a Blaine anyway, so.
I did.
Oh, did he really?
Yeah.
So it all worked out in the end.
Yeah, the limited edition figure was cool, but yeah, the swag bags were a little light this year. But the $25 definitely made up for it, so I can't wait.
Yep. Well, there you go. Time.
All right, very good. Well, why don't we go ahead and slide? Well, all right, why don't we go ahead and slide into a commercial break? We'll come back on the other side. We'll do shout-outs, announcements, whatever kind of silliness we can come up with as we're working our way towards the end of the show.
Guys, we need a bumper to share with the other Mantic podcasts. No swearing allowed. Oh, real professional. The 4 Foot Snake is a UK-based Kings of War podcast, presented by John. I want to be an individual. Dan. Nick.
Can I go to the toilet, please?
And Matt. You can find us on Facebook at OFFS and on Twitter at O4FootSnake. And you can find us on iTunes. That's 32 points of damage. Let's do a nerve check. Anything but snake eyes. Oh, for fuck.
Welcome back. Well, it's time for shout-outs, guys. So, Rob, Jack, do you want to start us off?
Sure. And that was a fantastic commercial. That I touched me right here, and I'm touching my heart. It's glowing like.
I hope you're touching your heart.
Easy.
Yeah.
It's a family show there, Rob.
Yeah, come on, Rob.
What do you think this is, the beer phase?
Come on.
Can't get away with that kind of stuff.
No.
So, Jack, do you have a shout-out?
Shout-outs. Nope, not a one.
It's your favorite part of the show.
No monocle and top hat members or nothing?
We do have a new monocle and top hat member, but he prefers to remain anonymous, so we can't mention him.
I think.
Well,
I
you call
think
it Mr. Anonymous.
No, see, I think he was being clever. He's part of the Top Hats and Monocles Club, and he prefers to remain nameless.
Wow.
See, that is a clever dude.
He is a clever dude, but yes, we'll have to make up a name for him. He'll have a code name.
Well, sure, he's Mr. Peanut.
I don't think he'd appreciate that.
He's got a top hat and a monocle, right?
Yeah,
So
I guess we should
he's
explain.
afraid to come out of his
We
shell.
should explain what the top hats and the nameless top hats and monocle club is. It's we do have a Patreon, and anybody who pledges anything to our Patreon becomes a member of the nameless top hats and monocles club. And I do encourage you to go to the search for Deadzone the Podcast on Patreon just to read the actual Patreon page, because I think we outdid ourselves in that one.
Yeah, and then open your wallets, you dirty ingrates, and that's
Absolutely.
the least you can do. Quite honestly.
Jack, what have I've
love
told
the
you
fact
about
that you
this.
got
There you go.
I love that you guys have a $1,000 award.
Yeah, well, let's
reward
hope
on
nobody
your
ever does
Patreon
that
page.
one, because we might be in trouble. A, I think it's illegal, and B,
All right, you got my interest. What is the 1,000 point reward level?
well, I'll go to it and I shall read it out then.
So I'll read it. It says, Daddy Warbucks, 1,000 or more per month. We will be bathed and sent to your room post haste.
Yes. Once again, I'm pretty sure that's illegal.
No.
Yeah, so there's our reward levels are a bit skewed, you might say, but it's all in jest. Please, don't give us any money. That's for psychology.
It's Bugs Bunny, right? Rabbit
right.
season, duck season, rabbit season, and
That's
then you
our
become
plan.
millionaires.
That's our whole fiscal plan right there. So yeah, shoutouts.
There you go. So you guys are thinking that Rob and I need to jump into Patreon, huh?
Well, it does pay for our. We are past the level. We're actually paying for our hosting, which was pretty much the only cost we had for this. So it's nice. Now it's going to move on to other things like I don't know. We have to think of new. Yeah, we have to think of new things. We got Jack sandwiches, and we got paying for our servers. So beyond that,
Traveling to Adepticon could be covered next year.
yeah. No, well, we don't want to be that needy.
Lone Wolf.
We have to think of other things to waste the money on.
No. I want my Adepticon trip paid for next year. You all heard it. Get together. I don't know if you have to plan, start a committee, do whatever. Just get those wallets out.
There's only one Cox in King's War.
Yeah, all of this is going to have to hit the cutting room floor. This is not going to make for the PG audiences that.
Actually, our show we don't even have swearing on it. You guys at least allow swearing. Oh, I shouldn't have said that. Jack's going to just swear a lot now.
Fantastic.
I don't know. Rob's pretty liberal with the sword clangs.
But yeah.
Oh, fantastic. Well, I'm going to give a quick shout out here. I'm going to give a shout out to you guys for helping me out with my Lone Wolf Challenge acceptance for Mr. Jonathan Fawkes. So, this is the world premiere of my acceptance of the Round 1 Lone Wolf Challenge. So, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to play this, and we'll be right back.
Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats. The show is about to begin.
We present tonight a dramatic reenactment of the Right Honorable Mark Zelinsky of Ohio representing Couter Charge's historic acceptance of Jonathan Fawkes of England and the 4-Foot Snake's Lone Wolf Challenge for the first round in that prestigious event on April 28th in the year of our Lord, 2017. Playing Mr. Zelinsky will be Monsieur David Nathaniel Walker, with the villain of the piece, Fawkes, played by Bartholomew Bite. Please sit and enjoy.
Well, I'm Mark Zelinsky. I do declare that I accept the first round Lone Wolf Challenge at the tournament that will be April 28th, 2017. And I will make sure you meet my ogres in mortal combat on the field of battle. Well, I might just be an Ohio podcaster, but I feel like sometimes that I was not meant for this society. See, I ain't the same person I was at the last tournament when I bit that guy's ear off. But my biggest weakness is my sensitivity. I'm a sensitive person. Everyone has a plan until they get punched in the mouth. And that is how I plan to defeat Mr. Fawkes. Now I plan to feel his muscle tissue collapse under my force. It's ludicrous these mortals even attempt to enter my realm. Then, when you see me smash someone's skull, you'll enjoy it. I might not be Mother Teresa, but I'm not Charles Manson either. Now, I might just be an Ohio podcaster. But when I fight someone, I want to break his will. I want to take his manhood. I want to rip his heart out and show it to him. And finally, I love to hit people. I love to. In conclusion, I know that I'm going to blow one day. My life is doomed the way it is. I have no future. But on April 28th, 2017, Mr. Fox, I always just want to be humble at all times. I'm just happy I am not a phony.
I hope you enjoyed this presentation. Please come back next time for David Nathaniel Walker's one-man play, The Mint Julep Monologues. Thank you, and good night.
Again, thanks, guys, for putting this together for me. Fantastic. I know you got a lot of artistic free reign. I don't know how you guys came up with this, but it was fantastic. So, again, a real tip of the hat. I really appreciate your help.
Yeah, we had a brainstorming session, and Jack came up with I think it was my idea to do the accent, but it was all Jack for the.
We basically said we're going to take an evening and do our buddy Mark a favor, and that's what we came up with. The thing is, we were given artistic license, which means when two lunatics are allowed to do whatever they want.
Yeah.
But you're welcome.
Well, it was fantastic. Well, you guys got a lot of experience doing Vinland Old Time Radio, so why don't you do a shout out for that show and tell people what that's
where it all
about.
started when we first did podcasts and nobody listens to them. So Vinland Old Time Radio. It's two N's in Vinland. And it's radio plays and it's insanity. We do some other things like watch movies and do commentary and things like that. But generally, it's just us being insane, and I think it works. But nobody listens to it, so it's easy to be insane when nobody's listening. That's the key. We're dancing like no one's watching.
It used to be like hours and hours of making these radio plays and stuff. Just time and effort. No one listened. We start doing the Deadzone podcast. We just natter like a couple idiots for a little while. People are losing their full minds. People, whoa, this is the greatest thing. We had 1,600 listeners just pop up out of nowhere, and it's like nothing. What we were working, we were being artists over there.
Yeah, we get like 10 people listening, and yeah, it just proves that our art will only be appreciated after our deaths.
Yeah, I can't wait till Tuesday though.
Well, you know what though? But you guys put that all that experience to great use, and you guys did some great audio novels for Deadzone. I got to give you guys a shout out for that too. You did them with Coach; those were fantastic.
Yeah, originally it wasn't to be with Coach. Coach, he every time we'd like give him something, he'd like more lines. So him and his family ended up dominating the vocal talent, along with Jack and some other people. But hopefully, we were supposed to get more containment protocols, short stories from Mantic, and they never came. So we do have that Warpath novel. Maybe we should set that as a goal for the Patreon, that if we get to a certain point, we'll do the Warpath novel. Because otherwise, we make up funny things. Once again, on Vinland Old Time Radio a long time ago, we did some comedic Deadzone sketches. And if you leave it to our devices, it turns into a nut show.
No, neither of us can run for politics. Let's just put it that way.
That's true. But
well, you know what? We're going to have to put that talent to good use when we get some. Maybe we could do the Kings of War short stories that were done. We'll get Mr. Fanuff here and myself and some others to help you guys out with those. Those would be fantastic. You guys really did a top-notch job on those, and I'm going to encourage people. Now, those are just in your audio feed, right? If you just go to the Deadzone the Podcast feed, people can find them.
Yep, or if you go to deadzonegame.podbean.com on the left-hand side, I believe, you can see it's called Containment Protocols, and you just click on that, and they're all there. And it's all the short stories written. It was a short story book from Mantic, and Community Pat actually originally asked us to do the audio books for it, or audio plays really. I wouldn't call them audio books because there's sound effects and there's some acting, but generally it.
Oh yeah,
it was a lot of work.
People.
And,
I mean, if guys and gals, check them out. They're fantastic. So,
thank you. Yeah, it was a lot of work, and we do appreciate it when people actually say they actually listen to them. And Adepticon, somebody came up to us and said that he was getting his wife into listening to those, and maybe to get her into playing Deadzone through those. So we're like, oh, well, maybe that's a thing to do. So if your wife is interested in sci-fi, listen to those. Maybe she'll get into playing the games. But we hope to do a community service. That's what we're trying. But yes.
Well, speaking of community, Community Pat, you guys mentioned that you guys have these painting hangouts. Now, do you guys tweet the link to that, or how do you let people know that you guys are online and you could actually paint with Community Pat and yourselves?
Well, right now they're private, but I know Pat wanted to open them up, so I'm sure that'll happen in the near future. If you follow maybe our Twitter or Facebook. He posts them on the Mantic North America page, usually on Facebook, I believe. We also do a monthly hangout with Coach called Deadzone Monthly on his channel, Family Gamer 777, which that's public. It's just us hanging out, and people watch and listen to us once again, natter. This time with absolutely no. There's so many tangents. It's barely a show. I don't know why anybody listens to that thing.
Well, hopefully to paint.
Yes, it does pass the time, and we get stuff done. That's the important part.
Oh, for sure. I haven't been as productive or as prolific. A lot of the people have said, I'm just sitting here painting with friends, and that because we do sometimes Coach will have a show that he kind of plans, a theme. Other times just a hobby hangout, and we just talk like we're just buddies, and we just paint. And we get stuff done. And if you're looking to build a faction, like a strike force, or if you're looking to build a unit for Kings of War, just hop on in and paint away with us.
And there is a chat in the because it's on YouTube, so they have the chat on YouTube that we watch and we interact that way. And yeah, but we want to do more of those because it is fun. Just like Jack says, it's like hanging out with people, and that is how we met all of our friends like Coach and Tyler and Andrew, Coach's son Andrew, and Fabian, and all those kind of guys. We met them through these kind of shows, so it's good to, and plus all the people we met at Adepticon, a lot of them were active in the chat there. It's fun just to it's about the community really, because that is the best part about it. The games don't really matter in the end. It's all the people you get to hang out with. And you guys should start a Patreon, because you guys, I think, have a bigger following than we do. At least Kings of War is a much bigger game, so You guys could rack in the dough. You could build your armies for free, people. You're wasting. You're throwing money away. You're leaving money on the table.
You might be propositioned by a sheik.
We are leaving money on the table.
Take it or leave it.
We're still waiting for our sheik.
Oh yeah. Oh, I will rub that man's feet with scented oils. It'll be. It's just the money. It just put the money on the table.
There was a guy this past weekend at Crucible, and it said his shirt said, "I'm not gay, but $20 is $20." It's like okay, that's
Patreon right there.
There it is, man. Yeah, you say I have no idea how many listeners we have because I kind of just take the opinion that we just do it for ourselves, and if anybody else is listening, it's just a bonus. So statistics and stuff, who knows? Mark's more obsessed about that kind of stuff. I don't care about that kind. Mark, even there? Okay.
I am here. Absolutely.
We stunned him into silence.
Yeah, no, we've talked about it a little bit. I've been trying to look it up, but I'm giving up. So, it's like Rob said, we do this for the community. We do it a little bit for ourselves, but mostly, we do it for everybody. And, we just have a lot of passion for Kings of War, and we just love the game, and we just want to share our passion with everybody. And, just
Mark, is that what we're calling it? Passion?
So we're
calling it passion now? Is that what we're calling it? Okay. All right.
Passion? Pick your word, Rob.
No, passion's a good word. Passion. Like a fine romance novel.
Hey, you love the game. I mean, we got into this in Kings of War First Edition, and we were transitioning out of Warhammer back when First Edition dropped. So we were really happy with it, and I was playing both Warhammer 8th and Kings of War interchangeably back and forth, and it was almost good that the Warhammer world blew up because it really
the best thing that happened though was Deadzone the Podcast showed up, because then I could stop all pretenses that we give a crap about anything other than Kings of War.
That's right. Yep, we got to fill the niches.
Exactly.
I do have a question though about Kings of War, and you said you got in on the first edition. I've heard that the first edition was not that polished.
It was terrible.
It was not terrible.
Let me back up.
For someone to go from, say, Warhammer or some other game from some other company to it and love it, and I've heard it was broken. Like, how does that work for you guys?
So, absolutely correct. First edition had a few things that were just issues that obviously, what is your favorite saying, Mark? That no plan
ever survives first contact.
So
with the enemy.
once they released, so first of all, we followed along watching Alessio Cavator going over to Beast of War and talking about the beta test and all that stuff for Kings of War. But when they actually released it, it turned out that war machines were insanely powerful to the point where you could, like, if you had enough war machines, you could end this game on turn 2. You could just shoot them off the table. Knights were uber awesome. They would just hit, and then they would just hit again, and they would just hit again. Oh, and they're high defense, so you're not going to knock them out. And then obviously flyers. So you had flyers, war machines, and heavy cavalry that had to be toned down. And I think they took unfortunately, it took us playing it for several years. Mark, how long did we play First Edition? 3 years?
Oh, yeah, so absolutely. At least that. I mean, and I really enjoyed it because I played it at small points, so I didn't have all those problems. But I did play Shannon Shoemaker's 7 War Machine Army at the Clash of Kings in 2000.
Yeah, the highlight for me was, do you remember that event at Adepticon where we had the guy throwing stuff?
Oh yeah! Oh, I still have the head of one of those werewolves.
I'm playing a guy,
after he left, Colin
I'm playing a guy, and I mean, let's be honest. I'm just there for, just have a good time. I am actually just kind of a casual gamer at heart, and I'm playing, and I'm doing stuff that probably shouldn't be working in Kings of War, but it's just pounding this guy into the ground. So he finally snaps. And he starts, like, talking to his guys, putting them on the ground, and he's stomping on them. He's, like, smashing the units because they're disappointing him in terms of performance. And then he starts chucking them. So, Mark, that's my memory of First Edition, was that dude just going berserk at Adepticon a few years ago, just throwing stuff everywhere.
That was Clash of... Yeah, that was Clash
That might have been the
Kings
first...
2014.
Was that the first Clash of Kings we attended?
I'll never forget that. You know what? I think so, because I had to wear the Michigan State University shirt because I lost
so
the
to
bet.
answer, to circle back to your question, first edition there was some significant problems with it, but I think we had to go through that to get to where we are with second edition. Because second edition it's a beautiful game. First edition was kind of like, okay, here's your first
Deadzone
crack.
had similar problems.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, I liked first edition a lot. It really got me going. And second edition is very elegant. The Rules Council has done a very nice job. And you were just mentioning, Rob, that you guys went through that with first edition Deadzone.
Yeah, not quite as bad, but there was definitely issues. And yeah, the second edition is just amazing compared to it. So it's worth waiting out bad editions, I guess, is what we're saying.
Yeah, the first edition was good, and it's still playable. It was almost a different game. It had the cards and some other stuff that were streamlined out. The second version, far more brutal, and not as it's getting more. I can see where they're heading with it. It's a little more. I don't know. It's brutal. It is pretty brutal. It's fast and dirty, and it's not the same kind of board game-ish rules that they had.
Yeah, one of the things, though, when you're going through, whether it be a Deadzone or Kings of War in first edition, Mantic is the type of company that engages the community. So if you're playing that first edition, you have an opportunity to engage them and actually make the game you really want. Which I think you'd probably say Deadzone's probably the game. I mean, I think, is there anybody that likes first edition Deadzone better than second edition?
Yeah, there is some people, but not many. Yeah, most people agree that it's much better in second edition.
So yeah, Mantic's a great company.
Yep, they listen. That's the key. Sometimes they listen too much, but generally they listen.
Absolutely. Mark, you got any shout-outs?
Oh, I wanted to ask one more quick question. I wanted to say, do you guys have a rules committee for Deadzone that Mantic has? Is there kind of like rules council? Are you guys on that with Coach, or is or do they just have it? It's less organized than what we have in Kings of War with the rules council.
Next question.
This is a bit of a sore spot
because I know you guys were involved in the playtest.
Yeah, we did playtest some stuff, but there is a rules committee, but. A lot of those people are doing Warpath and Firefight, and I think Deadzone's getting a little left behind. And Joe Neat implied that there'd be a shakeup, but we'll see. But yeah, I think Coach definitely should be on a rules committee. The fact that Coach isn't on the rules committee is ridiculous. That guy, nobody cares more about the rules than he does. And us, we just BS a lot, but he actually cares about the rules. We just make up our own stuff, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, the rules committee doesn't like. We were asked where the rules committee is at Adepticon, and I said, they're not here. And they said, well, do they, I don't even know if they really play Deadzone. And that's not
Jack's being a little controversial here, but
it's not a scathing, indictment, but I don't know exactly how much they actually play. And it's like, I don't know if you guys play Dreadball at all, but it's like not having Jeff Burbage be on the rules committee for Dreadball. It's like there's someone there that really just has all the knowledge, all the just
cares.
Yeah, and just not utilize that. Do I think I should be on the rules committee? No, I'm a drunk loudmouth. Do I think Rob should be on the rules committee? No, he's just terrible. But Coach and Tyler from Dreadpath Zone,
yeah,
they should. They really should. And instead of people that they have now that again are probably on Warpath and maybe doing other stuff.
Busy doing other stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. So again, you dragged it out of me. I didn't want to. And
that's not to say And that's not to say the rules committee is bad, because they did a great job in version 2. And it's just, unfortunately, they're not getting paid. They have other things to do, right?
Yeah.
So, and if their focus right now, especially I think the Mantic's focus right now is on Warpath, Deadzone needs a separate group that's willing just to upkeep Deadzone, Not those people who are too busy doing other things. That I can't blame them. Once again, they're not getting paid. So.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, I blame them. I think when I'm Emperor of the World, they'll be the first ones on the cattle cars heading to.
I think we need an edit. Right here. I think we need an edit right here.
No, but I see what you guys are saying though, because if you got folks on a rules committee, or a rules council, whatever Mark wants to call it today, the reality is that you need people that are passionate about that game and that are actively playing that game, building the community, engaging the community. And, it's like if Chris Capster decided tomorrow that, I'm going to go play Age of Sigmar or whatever game that may be. I think he would be, hey, look, I'm not going to be on the rules committee anymore. And I think you just need people that this is their game. I mean, what I really think is if you're going to be on the rules committee, this needs to be your game.
Because a lot of the rules committee guys are doing Star Saga, they're doing Firefight, they're doing Warpath, like Deadzone. It's, I think it's the very last in that line because the other ones they have to get out and maintain. So
now, do you have any Americans on the Deadzone?
I think it's all Americans. Maybe
rules committee?
I don't think there's any British people. Yeah, an Australian and a couple Americans. I think are the ones that are on all those ones. So yeah, I don't think. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know who's actually on the rules committee, but
Well, how do you not know? Don't you? I mean, they should.
Well, it's in the books, and I'm sure if you looked in the books and saw the credits and stuff, and there's some guys on the Facebook groups that pop up once in a while, but generally, yeah, I think they have other focuses right now, and they need people like Coach and those kind of people who will only focus on Deadzone. So, because as he says, it's his game.
Well, there's our plug. Come on, Ronnie, make it happen.
Joe Neat did imply that there would be a
That's
shakeup.
it, Ronnie. Make it happen.
Hopefully, Coach is involved with that shakeup. And Tyler. But once again, Tyler's got other things on his mind, too, because he likes Star Saga, he likes Warpath. Coach is much more all Deadzone all the time. Even though he does like other things, Deadzone is his number one game, so. But, we'll see. We just want someone close so we can whisper in their ears, like silent partners. We could just try to get stuff in that... But we don't have to have our names on anything, so we don't get any blame. I think that's the key.
Right. Just have them keep making the orcs much better.
There you go. Well, see, and then when you have a recognizable rules committee, they become part of the community, and then you guys can have them on the podcast and, stuff like that. I like our rules committee for Kings of War. They're very active. They're very public. They interact fantastic with the community. It's really a nice relationship that we have with them. They're very open. They come to the tournaments, they participate all the time, and, they're just woven into the fabric of the community. And so I'm hoping the same for you guys.
That would be nice. There is a bit of a deficit there. And I will say that Community Pat is fantastic, and he's... I don't know how they found him, but they better coddle him. They better swathe him like a little baby and just protect him. Mantic, he's a treasure, and I hope they realize it, because Community Pat does a lot to take up the slack for Deadzone that the rules committee kind of. We try. We've got the podcast, and we anything and everything. We'll. You want us on the podcast, on your podcast? You guys know. You said, hey, you want to come on and shake your moneymakers a little bit, and we're like, yeah, we were here. We're shucking and jiving. We want to get the word out, but the Community Pat really does a fantastic job. So I say that's my shout out right there. I take back that I have no shout outs. Community Pat is my shout out.
Jack's just all about Community Pat right now because Community Pat finally got on the Walking Dead thing he won many moons ago. He won a Walking Dead Kickstarter. He never got the Kickstarter version, but he did get a box set from Community Pat at least. Community Pat picked up where Mantic failed us.
Well, I don't want to alarm you, Rob, but when we record the next Deadzone podcast, I have a little news on that front that will shock and surprise you.
Oh, excellent.
Yes, it'll be like a little bit of a teaser right here, but the real event will unfold on the show. The shocking twists and turns, it's like walking through a haunted mansion. There's gonna be surprises and there's gonna be some scares.
I'm scared already.
As you should be.
Why don't we go ahead and wrap up the show, guys? And why don't we start off with how can the listeners find you guys? Okay, how can they find Deadzone the Podcast so that we can fulfill that tease you just dropped on us, Jack, about The Walking Dead here? So, obviously we can use The Walking Dead models in Kings of War as well, as Mike Carter has shown us. So,
yep.
But how can the listeners find you guys, follow your adventures?
Deadzonegame.podbean.com and Deadzone Podcast on Twitter. We're Deadzone the Podcast on Facebook. We have a Facebook page. Come and like that. Once again, Patreon, Deadzone the Podcast on Patreon. Search for us and give us money. And, I think that covers most.
Or.
Oh, Vinland Old Time Radio, too, at the classic vinlandoldtimeradio.podbean.com. Very easily to find since it's such a short URL.
Rolls
2 N's in Vinland. But please, come listen to our shows there because we put a lot of work into those, and it saved our lives when we had terrible jobs and gave us a creative outlet. So it would be appreciate to have people actually listen to them once in a while.
Now, Vinland is not Vine, it's Vinn, right?
Vinnland, yes. Vinland Old Time Radio. I bet if you put that in Google, we'd be the only thing that came up.
So how would we find Couter Charge? What's the way we would through social media be able to?
If you just search Couter Charge Podcast, it'll be usually the first link that'll pop up. And if you could do the same thing in Facebook, we have a Facebook page. Though Mark is very anti-Facebook,
well, Jack is.
I'm slowly getting him into the 20th
Jack
century.
was anti-Facebook, and he may have tried it, and they may have said, no, we don't want you here, and kicked him off of it.
Yeah. They made it abundantly clear that I was not welcome on Facebook, and so it's mutual now. I wash my hands of Facebook.
But he does check Twitter once in a while, right, Jack?
I do, because Mark's on there. He tweets us.
Yeah. Ed. That's right.
Well, it was originally me, but Jack's taking control.
Which one of you runs the Twitter?
Slowly but surely, I'm learning to Twitter. That's my social. That's my. You know what? I think the Robs are Robs, and Mark and I are us. Like I think we have the dynamic. There's distinct parallels I'm learning.
So you're saying Rob does all the work, and no, that's not what you're saying.
Yeah, pretty much.
I don't remember saying that.
I was just thinking. I was just thinking the same thing, Jack. The Robs are kind of one and the same here, and we're kind of like Twitter,
must be
not
something with a
super
name.
dynamic hobby painters and all that. So very, very similar. I agree with you.
If there's ever like some three-legged races that we do, like I know who would team up with who.
Oh yeah, Rob and Rob are gonna leave Mark and Jack in the dust.
Yep. Now that's the next Patreon goal right there. Is
there it is.
Next year's Adepticon.
Adepticon.
That would actually be fairly cool. We could do that. So, but on Twitter, I am at ASLSKFan, or you can find me at CouterCharge15. So, and Jack, what's the Twitter handle for Deadzone the Podcast?
I don't know. I could give you a Grindr profile if that's what you want.
It's just Deadzone Podcast. It's just Deadzone Podcast.
Oh, okay. Deadzone Podcast. Hashtag bases don't matter. Hashtag Jack is awesome.
There you go. I'm going to use that one, Jack, so you're going to be sorry you said that.
I'm never sorry for anything I say.
That's true.
Very, very cool. Guys, it has been an absolute pleasure doing a mashup episode with you. It has been fantastic. I hope both audiences have learned about the games and we can kind of have some more synergy between our two communities and both of us enjoy each other's games, so to speak. You know, I mean, when we had Mantic Radio, we talked about all the Mantic games, so we certainly played a lot of Deadzone in our time. So it's very nice that you came and joined us and that you're starting to play Kings of War, and we're going to invite you guys to come play some games with us.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. And yes, I'm glad you came and joined us as well. I think this is something that Mantic, the community at large, is great for. And this is just part of the same thing that makes the community really what it is. And thank you guys. This has been fantastic.
All right. Well, why don't we turn it over to Mr. Wintergreen and let's get out of here, guys.
Okay, take it away, Wintergreen.
Thank you for listening to the Couter Charge and Deadzone the Podcast crossover special event episode. I have been your announcer, William Randolph Wintergreen. And until next time, keep countercharging